Hey guys, this is Jack from Jack's Garage. Today I'm working on my 2013 Dodge Ram 1500 and I'll be replacing the alternator. Ready? Let's get started. I woke up a couple days ago and my battery was dead. So I put it on the charger and it charged up, but I drove my other car to work. The next morning I went to start it again and it was dead. So I thought it was the alternator, but I Googled it and it said if your alternator has a bad diode, your battery can drain. The bad alternator diode can cause the circuit to charge even when the engine is shut off, and you end up in the morning with a car that won't start. So I'm really hoping that's what it is. The battery's showing charged. The meter's actually saying that it is holding a charge and it's not the battery that's dead. So what I'm going to do is pop the charger off, disconnect the negative battery terminal, and then start taking off the covers to change out the alternator. So I'm going to start off on this intake pipe, removing this little plug to this sensor. There we go. Just move it to the side. And I've got a 5/16 to loosen this up. I already got it a little loose. I'll just wiggle the intake pipe off to the air filter. And then there's one more on the front here. Get that one removed. Loosened up. Alright, that was easy. So now we're going to work on taking this top plastic cover. I've actually never taken it off before. Alright, now we have access to the top of the alternator. The front of the alternator has two bolts that we've got to take out, and then on the top I think we've got a ground and then the power that's got a plug. Mine actually has a plug in the back and this piece in the back. So we're going to see if it'll work out and work around the little electrical components on the top. If not, I'll have to get a different one. And then also we're going to work on how we're going to get the front belt loosened off of this and hang it up so it's not too difficult to put it back on also. Now it's time to take off the belt. I've got my 1/4" wrench and my breaker bar ready. You can check out my how to replace the Serpentine belt video on detail on how to get it loosened up. But I'm just going to pop it loose, pull the belt off of the alternator, and then I'm going to get a bungee cord and try to hang this thing up. So then I don't have to worry about the belt going crazy and having to string it all through there again. So there's two nuts on the front that will loosen up, or two bolts. And then we've got the back little sensor to pull off, the little clip. And then we've got to pull this, which I said was ground, but looks like that's the main power. I'm going to start with removing this nut for the power for the back of the alternator, and I'm using a 13mm. So I'll unscrew that and get it out of the way. Then we'll start by removing that clip. Pull that down, and the clip here. Easier to access now. So first thing, remove that bolt, then try to wiggle this clip off, which has been giving me a little bit of trouble. So I'm going to work the screwdriver in there, try to give it a little wiggle. It's not working out really well. I pulled back the red clip here, push this in, and you kind of need two tools. You're pushing down, got the screwdriver in here, getting it a little loose, and then wiggling it. Oops. So got both of those disconnected from the back side there. Next is pulling these bolts off the front. So there's just those two. I'm going to pull this one closest here. Getting it right in. There we go. Got it broken loose. wasn't super tight. Now I'm on to the second bolt. Get this one loosened up. I got the other one still in there, but just enough where I can slide it out. Here's this one. Alright. There's the last bolt. Now I'll try to give this thing a little wiggle, see if we can't get it out of there. It's in there pretty good. So I've got my crowbar. I'll put it in here. We've got this little air hose there, little breather hose. Should be a little, boy, it's in there pretty good. I've never had to use a crowbar to get off the alternator, so I'll make sure that's not binding it up. There we go. So it's loose. And move this to the side. Pop her on out of there. Oh, now the other side's in there real tight. So, oh, it's going to be fun getting that in if it's like that too. Alright, both sides are out. Little breather hose out. And pop her up. There we go. This is the new one that I got from Napa. So I gave them the year, make and model. Some reason this is located on the top, and this plug is located on the top also. Here's my factory one, the two backside. Even looks like as they're sitting up, this is a little higher than this pulley. So I'm going to go run back to Napa and swap these out. After waiting all weekend, my new alternator came in. It has the back connections, one for the plug, one for the power, and they're not on top. So be sure when you go to the auto parts store that you're verifying the location of your connections. Now it's time to get the alternator back in. So we're just going to reverse the same steps. As you can remember, it was a little difficult to pry that thing out. So hopefully it slides in a little bit easier. There we go. Oh yeah, it did. So we get those same bolts. Get those started. Slide this back bolt in. Alright. And I'll just crank down on those. I'm going to remove this rear nut off of the alternator and install this wire back on. I tried to install the one with the top terminals, but there's not going to be enough room. I couldn't stretch the cables out. It's just going to be a lot more work. My truck was just down for a couple days, so I was able to deal with that. Tighten this back down. And then pull the little cover over. I tried looking for the torque specs on it and I couldn't find them, so I'm just really tightening everything down as tight as I can get it. Sliding on this little clip. Make sure that little red retainer piece is pulled back before you slide it on. Pop this cable on there. And pop that red clip on. There we go. Those two are secure. And now to put back on the serpentine belt. So I hooked it up to a bungee cord. Just have to get your 1/4 inch wrench, slide it in the tensioner pulley, and then I got my breaker bar There we go. Then I'm going to pop off the bungee cord. Check the routing, because it's been sitting here for a couple days. Looks good. Pop her down. And before I let loose on that, I'm going to double check the belt to make sure it's in the grooves all the way around. Looks good. It's on the tensioner pulley. There we go. On the back side of the engine cover, you can see there's two connections and they just pop right on. So that's the next step. We'll slide that in. So there's the one and there's the other one on the other side of the oil fill. Slide this in first. And move our hoses around. Pop it right in, looks good. Now we'll put this hose back on the intake hose. And then we'll tighten these two connectors back up, and then we'll be finished. And we'll slide the sensor plug in. That's all tightened. Plug this guy in. There we go. And this one. I'm going to check the voltage on my battery. It's been sitting here for a couple days. So there we go. What's it read in? Saying 10.8. So it's a little low still. I'm going to try to crank it. See what we get. Truck started up great, and it was a pretty easy project. You can do it yourself. Just check it out. Are the terminals on the top or are they on the back? The battery should be checked before you start doing the alternator project, because maybe it's the battery and not the alternator. So I think anybody could do it, and it was pretty easy. So if you like what you've seen, subscribe and tune in next time.